Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast, traders. As always, we will begin with the DXY, the US dollar. Just a quick reminder, we have contacted the monthly supply that was above, and there's a very clear profit target to the monthly demand zone down below, which is a high probability monthly demand zone in my opinion. And I think we will probably react to the upside off of that demand. So that is where I think we are headed on the weekly time frame. We failed to hit the weekly supply above. We have a clear liquidity area down below with a support level below 100. So I think we easily could be pushing down to that liquidity area looking at the weekly time frame. Now, we don't have much to go off of here on the 4-hour chart. However, there is a little drop supply, kind of a hidden little supply zone at 104.95 on the 4-hour time frame. So if we do get a pullback up to that supply, I think we could see a move off of that supply zone. So it's certainly one you want to have on your charts, right? Let's say you are trading along, the USDJPY or something, and we are coming into the DXY supply in the 4-hour chart. It might be best to not take that trade. That's why it's important to look at the DXY. So even if we do push up, that is where I think we'll at least hesitate and maybe see a move to the downside. And something interesting happened on Friday here with the 1-hour chart on the DXY. We created a pretty good looking downward trend line on the 1-hour time frame. If you look here, we have supply above. This supply broke demand and an upward trend line. So that supply was created. We broke the low, creating a nice 1-hour downward trend line. Now there is a lot of space up to the trend line, so it is definitely possible we do maybe open up Monday and Tuesday, or maybe just Monday, maybe a little bit of Tuesday, aggressively into the downward trend line and maybe see a move off that trend line. And even if, let's say, we break the trend line, that's fine. We still have this 1-hour supply at 104.59 to get through as well. So if we do push up to here, I think we could see a move off of that supply zone as well, and especially since it is some sort of liquidity area here as well. So definitely a supply zone you want to have in your charts, and we certainly want to be monitoring the 1-hour downward trend line on the DXY as well to see if we are going to continue to go down to push down to the weekly and the monthly demand. So right now I am going to be monitoring the 4-hour supply zone we were talking about up here, and the 1-hour supply zone and the 1-hour downward trend line right now on the US dollar. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. Looking at the daily time frame, we did get a massive push up at kind of at the beginning of March here on the Euro US dollar. I'm not saying we're going to get a pullback down to this daily demand, but this is the origin of that entire move. So there is demand down below, but below the 1.05 area. So even if we do see some significant downward pressure in the euro, I think it's a high probability demand zone, in my opinion, on the daily time frame. I know that's pretty far away, so how do we go about and trade the euro right now? Well, first we're going to look at the 1-hour chart, but first, if you guys are enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I do these forecasts for free every single Friday, every single Saturday, so we much appreciate it. Hit that like button and share and subscribe. So as far as the euro goes now, you definitely want to be monitoring this 1-hour trend line. Copy this trend line on your charts from here to here. That's the two touching points on the trend line. So basically our options are to look for longs on a 5-minute time frame as long as this upward trend line is holding on the 1-hour time frame. So monitor this trend line. If it taps in, it respects it, that's fine. If there's a 5-minute trade, take it. Look, I'm a supply and demand trader here. I trade supply and demand zones. If you trade another strategy, that's fine. All I'm going to say is, I'd be sticking to the 5-minute or the 1-minute time frame to be trading this 1-hour trend line. I prefer the 5-minute, but you could also do the 1-minute. No matter what your entry is, that's fine. It's going to be longs as long as this trend line's holding. Let's say we push down, we break this trend line. That's okay. Why? Well, because down below we have a pretty high quality area of demand on the 1-hour chart at 1.07. I think we could see a move off this 1-hour demand zone for sure. So have that one on your charts. It could be a valuable trade in my opinion. A little drop base rally, beautiful move away from that zone. But one thing to consider here as well is right below this 1-hour demand, we have a 4-hour demand zone that's actually higher quality in my opinion. So just like the DXY we looked at, this is the opposite. So this is the 4-hour demand. On the DXY we had the supply zone. But on the 4-hour time frame, we're kind of hovering in the middle of supply and demand, as you can see right now. So that's why we have to monitor that 1-hour trend line. So if you are going to get along with that 1-hour trend line, it might be best to look to take some profit off at 1.089 because we definitely could hesitate around this supply. So the better trade for that 1-hour demand zone trade I just pointed out, it's decent, but the 4-hour demand zone trade is much higher quality in my opinion. So I actually could see us breaking that 1-hour demand to pull back into this 4-hour demand that's located right below it, stopping everyone out and pushing up. So I prefer this rally-based rally 4-hour demand rather than that 1-hour demand that we were just pointing out. We have easily profit margin up to the 4-hour supply. And look, if you're bearish, I like to point out both longs and shorts on a lot of the pairs based off of zones, right? Because people give me a hard time, oh, is it going to go long or short? You're just saying both. I'm not. I'm saying based off of these 4-hour charts, right? Because we have to look at the higher time frames. There's a daily trend, right? As you can see, we have a daily trend. So we could expect price to go up higher. So in theory, looking at this 4-hour chart, this 4-hour demand zone, I would prefer the 4-hour demand zone over the 4-hour supply. But it doesn't mean we can't get a trade like this. Boom, let's say we get an entry here. Boom, maybe you hear 3-to-1 take profit was hit. That's great. Maybe you want to take a trade off the supply. Maybe we get a nice little 2-to-1, 1-to-1 move, and then we break it, right? So there's money to be made on both longs and shorts. So if you are bearish, this is our 4-hour supply zone at 1.089 to look for a potential move to the downside off of. So a couple good 4-hour zones here, and even if we get a pullback all the way down to here at 1.05, we have a nice another 4-hour zone. So a couple fresh zones here on the 4-hour time frame on the euro US dollar. And like I said as well, you certainly want to be monitoring the 1-hour trend to the upside to be day trading along with that 1-hour trend. On to the forecast for gold, and we are looking at my 4-chart layout. And if you guys don't have a 4-chart layout, it does cost money. I think you have to be a Pro Plus member on TradingView, but it is well worth it in my opinion. I love having my 4-chart layout. It just makes it so much easier to see what is going on. And it prevents you from, let's say we had a 1-hour downward trend. It prevents you from being too focused on this 1-hour downward trend and really be seeing the bigger picture, which is, look at this, guys. Trend of the upside in the weekly, trend of the upside in the daily, 4-hour trend, 1-hour trend. All signs are pointing to the upside here on gold. Zooming in on the daily chart here first, we have beautiful price action here. It's looking really good. We do have a daily demand that's down below at 29.40. So even if we do get a deep pullback on gold, that's fine. We have a nice little rally-based rally demand located at 29.40 on the daily time frame. So we have a lot of backstop, right, to protect us if we want to continue to look for longs on gold. So as far as the 4-hour time frame goes, we have a beautiful 4-hour trend to the upside right now. So I would draw this trend line and monitor this trend line. As long as this trend line's holding on the 4-hour chart, I would look for longs on a 15-minute or lower, right? 50-minute, 5-minute preferred. I don't really like going down on the 1-minute chart. I would rather be on the 5-minute time frame max, or sorry, minimum. So watch this trend line. If it's respecting, you can definitely be looking for longs in a 15-minute and 5-minute time frame, and basically be moving your stop loss up with price, because where's the profit margin, right? We don't have any price action over here to calculate profit margin. So it's really, all signs are pointing to the upside. It is day trading longs all the way here on gold. And even if we do get a pullback to the 1-hour chart, we have a nice little rally-based rally demand at 30.61 here, below all this here. So a nice rally-based rally, decent move away. Not my favorite, but it's a decent move away. We stayed away up here, and I think it's a good zone at 30.61. So if we do get a pullback down there, that is the nearest area of demand that you could be looking for longs off of. And you can also use confirmation on day trading timeframes in here to, kind of maximize your risk to reward. So that is what I'd be looking for here on gold. However you trade, it is longs all the way. I'm not seeing any reason to be shorting it. Let's say we get a nice pullback like this, we break both these demand zones, and we have a high quality supply zone. Okay, then maybe we could get, a 2-to-1, 1-to-1 trade off the supply because it's still counter trend. But, it would only be a quick trade because we are going against the trend. So at this point, it is longs all the way. I wouldn't be shorting until we can see a move like this. I know it could be tempting to short at all-time highs or whatever, but it's not a good idea. I'd rather be waiting for demand zones to be looking for longs off of on any time from here on gold. Onto the forecast for the USDJPY. If you look at my top left screen and my bottom left screen, this is a weekly time frame and a daily time frame. If you look, there's not a lot to go off of, especially on the weekly chart. There's no trend. I don't call this trend on the daily either. Yes, I would agree that momentum is overall down, but it's not a good trend that I like to see. It's just kind of momentum. So it's a little bit tricky to be reading right now. I see there's two options here on the USDJPY if you want to trade it. So on the 4-hour chart, we have a pretty nice looking 4-hour upper trend line indicated with my arrow here and the trend line. So I will say, as long as this trend line's holding, I think I could definitely justify 50-minute time frame longs. I think that makes a lot of sense. So you definitely want to be monitoring this upward trend line on the 4-hour chart. If you think that this daily momentum that I pointed out is going to continue down, that is fine. We did just break a 1-hour trend line here, right? So if you look, this trend line was looking good. We certainly could have been looking for longs. Maybe you got one here. Boom, nice trade on a lower time frame. That's fine. But now the trend line has been removed. And this trend line was removed by this area of supply. It's kind of a weird zone. Certainly not my favorite supply zone. I'll be very clear. I wouldn't take a supply zone like this, as in, I wouldn't just take an entry like this with a stop loss above and a take profit below. It's just not a high quality zone that I like. If you look in the 1 hour time frame, there was much better zones, right? This one was a losing trade, but much better zone. This one trade worked out for a bit, nice little almost 2 to 1. This zone back here, look at the move away. It actually kind of only worked for a little bit, but look at the difference between the zones, right? Much higher quality compared to this supply zone. So how do we, if you want to trade the zone, how do we do this? Honestly, the only thing I'd be doing here, this is the kind of zone that's good for lower time frame confirmation. So if you trade on a 5-minute chart or a 1-minute time frame, even a 50-minute could be okay as well. This could be a higher time frame supply that you'd want to look for trades at on your lower time frames. That would make a lot of sense. So we're basically going to be looking for confirmation on day trading timeframes at this supply zone rather than just taking the entire zone. And confirmation on lower timeframes inside of the zone, that's something that we go over in the daily market breakdown videos once price contacts this area of supply. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links in the description down below. So you can have this supply zone on your charts. That's fine. Just look for confirmation on day trading time frames in there. It would just increase the odds of the trade working out. And if you're not a day trader, that's fine. I would just ignore that zone. Just like I'm not a day trader, so I'm going to be ignoring the zone. Unless for the members, I'll be pointing out the confirmation. So either have the zone on your charts, look for confirmation on your own, or you can join the group and see what happens when we hit that area of supply. But overall, it is looking a little bit weak right now, but we still have that 4-hour, upward trend line to remove as well if we are really going to suggest that the daily momentum is going to continue to go down. So right now in the USDJPY, to summarize, we have a 1-hour supply we could see move off of, especially on a lower time frame. If you're bearish and if you're bullish, you definitely could justify looking for longs as long as this 4-hour trend line is being respected on the USDJPY. Already on to the forecast for the GBPUSD, the British pound. I'm starting with the 4-hour time frame here, and there's definitely a reason why. So make sure you watch this full forecast so you can understand why. Look at this 4-hour trend to the upside, right? If you look at this 4-hour trend on like a 1-minute or a 5-minute chart, it's going to look like price has been pushing up forever, and oh my God, do we ever got to get in long right now in the pound? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but this perspective is only one perspective. I will say this trend is looking really great. However, when you look at a weekly chart, what's the story telling us here, right? Because price is always telling us a story. We have a weekly trend to the upside. This trend was removed. This trend line was removed. This demand was removed. We pushed down. We created a supply zone at 1.29. So we actually have a higher time frame weekly supply and control. And it's not just any supply. If we go back to that USDJPY 1-hour supply we were just talking about, it's not the highest quality supply. This is a very high quality supply. It has 2 criteria for what it removed. It removed demand, removed the trend line, so it is fantastic as far as what it removed. Not only that, it's a great move away as well. So as far as the supply zone goes, it's basically a 10 out of 10. The basing's tight, nice move away. It accomplished a lot. It's a great zone. It doesn't mean it's going to hold. We easily could break the zone, right? We're basically basing out for either a push down or for a nice push up. That is what I think we are, kind of basing out for. And we have to monitor the lower time frames to suggest what is going to happen. So just wanted to point it out, right? Yes, it is looking strong. If you just look from down here to up here, what a move. But where are we pulling into? We are pulling into a higher time frame supply, so the higher time frame forces could be pushing us to the downside very soon. So how do we, trade that? Really, it's all going to revolve around this 4-hour time frame here. What I will say is, let's say this trend line breaks and we have a 4-hour supply zone. That is our confirmation model entry right there, right? If you go and you watch my tips playlist, I have tons of videos on confirmation. That is pretty much my strategy in a nutshell as far as confirmation goes. Waiting for that trend line to be removed. That is the only way I would get in short right now. Now, it doesn't mean I'm just going to get in long, right? There's 3 things you can do. People think there's 2, right? You're either long or you're short. No, you can also be in the middle and not be trading, right? Me personally, I'm not a day trader anyway, but I wouldn't be getting in long this trend line because of the weekly supply and control. If you want to, that's fine, because like I said, that weekly supply easily could break. So as long as this trend line's holding on the 4-hour chart, you definitely could be looking for, some long trades. It makes sense, but I would stick to the day trading timeframes. However, let's say we push up, we break this 4-hour supply, any 4-hour demand zone there, it could be a good potential long entry as well. So basically for longs, we're basically monitoring this upward trend line and trading accordingly with the idea, hey, we have a higher time frame supply and control up here. So maybe if you normally risk 1%, maybe risk 0.5% because of the fact that the higher time frame supply is in control, guys. Now, that is one option for longs. The next is to wait for this zone to be removed and look for longs off of the zone that removes that, which is a zone that I'll have on my charts for all of the members and myself. Those are our two options for longs. And for shorts, our only option is to wait for this upper trend line to be removed, creating a supply zone, hopefully, that we can look for shorts off of. So those are our options on the GBPUSD. And remember, guys, if you guys have any questions, I respond to every comment. If I've never responded to if I didn't respond to a comment, it's because I didn't see it and there's some sort of glitch. If you go and watch any one of my videos, all the comments, I've responded to probably 99% of them. So if you have a question, comment, I'll get back to you. On to the forecast for the USDCAD, and this is a very tricky one, and I'm going to show you guys why. This is the struggle that I myself has even as a trader after trading for 5 years. It is difficult to tell what is going on sometimes. And on the USDCAD here, it's a great example. We have a weekly trend. Now the trend is good, but we've kind of got a little exaggerated over here, so I'm not surprised to see a pullback. But overall, the weekly trend is up. This is where it gets tricky, right? On the daily time frame, we don't have a trend. It's just sideways. We have zones being removed all over the place. And whenever price action gets really tight like this, a lot of the zones end up failing. We are looking for tight price action like this and then a massive move to get a nice trade off of, just like we had here. If you go back and watch the video, we've called out this zone from back last year in December. So that's the tricky part, right? There's no trend, no clear zones. What do we do, right? Very, very tricky. And even on the 4-hour time frame, we had a 4-hour downward trend. It was removed. Looks like it maybe was a fake out. It is a very, very tricky chart at this time. Now we do have a little supply zone above at the 1.462 area up here, little hidden supply, drop base, drop supply. It is decent. So if we do get a pullback up to there, I think we could look for shorts off that 4-hour supply. If we break this low right here in the 4-hour chart, that means that the 4-hour downward trend line has continued, and then we could add in 15-minute time frame shorts. But until that low is removed, I wouldn't be doing that because we don't have a trend here. We are going sideways. So until we have a trend, I would not be trading the USDCAD right now. Even on the 1-hour chart, we had a nice 1-hour trend. Look at this, clearly removed. To me, this looks like some sort of manipulative stop hunt. It is what it is. But what you could be doing now on the 1-hour chart, map out this high here. If this high gets removed, we will have a new H1 uptrend. Then 5-minute time frame longs are good. So in the USDCAD, to summarize again, we are basically waiting for either a 1-hour trend line to continue, or the 4-hour trend line to continue, or for the 4-hour supply zone to be hit to look for shorts up there. Those are really, from my perspective, those are the only 3 things I'd be waiting for here on the USDCAD. All right, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD. On the weekly chart and the daily chart, we don't have a whole lot to go off of. On the daily time frame, there's really no trend. We failed to make a new high, so there's not a lot to go off of. However, on the weekly time frame, we did remove a significant low, and we do have a weekly downward trend. So that is really the only thing we have going for us on the higher time frames. The issue is we are at the lows, right? So it doesn't mean price is going to go down, but usually when we're at the lows, we could see price kind of rally up before pushing down, something to consider. But we do have a weekly downward trend, so that is kind of our higher time frame bias, which is why I like the 4-hour chart, which we're going to go to in a minute. On the 1-hour chart here, we had a beautiful 1-hour demand zone. This demand zone, it's an objective demand zone, is a drop, base, beautiful rally. The trend line was removed. We got a beautiful pullback down to this demand. What a trade. And look, he almost would have been stopped out here, but saved by a couple pips. Beautiful trade from that demand zone. Absolutely picture perfect. We came back in. It was respected multiple times. I want to make it clear, I would not have taken these setups here, right? This would have worked for another 2-to-1 trade, 3-to-1 trade almost. But I am only taking this first entry here on the Aussie at this time. Now we've come in multiple times. We've hit it multiple times. This is becoming some sort of support. This is not a good demand zone anymore. I would pretty much completely ignore this demand zone at this time. I want to see what removes it, to see what supply zone removes it, but it's not an area I want to be trading at anymore because it's so tested. On the 4-hour chart, we had an upward trend line here, beautiful upward trend line. That upward trend line was removed by this rally base drop area of supply at 0.634. We're kind of basing out before, which is what I always like to see. And I think a pullback up to that 4-hour supply could be a good potential trading setup. Now, we don't have a daily trend, so it's not the highest odds situation, but the fact that we have a weekly trend makes this trade a little bit higher odds. I like what it accomplished. We had a very good looking upward trend line. It was removed. The supply zone is decent. I'm not a fan of the basing, but it is what it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a good supply zone. We certainly could see a move off of it there. Let's say we don't get a pullback up to that supply. That's fine. If you are a day trader and we remove this low, then we will have the ability to connect a downward trend line, which would be a downward trend. Then we could be day trading short a 50-minute time frame. So we also want to be monitoring this low to see if we can create a downward trend or wait for that supply zone to be hit to look for potential shorts off of on the AUD/USD. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDCHF on the weekly time frame. Price is pretty much going sideways. There's not a lot to really give us here as far as information goes. I just don't know where this is going based off of this weekly chart. On the daily chart, we certainly have momentum to the downside, so it's kind of giving us more of a clue, right? The story tells us a price, guys. So if you're not seeing what's going on the lower time frames, go up a time frame. If you're not seeing what's going up on the higher time frames, go down a time frame to see what's going on. So in this instance, the weekly chart wasn't really telling us much. On the daily chart, the picture is a little bit more clear. We broke the upward trend line in the daily chart. We started to remove demand zones, creating supply zones on the way down. We have a clear demand zone down below at 0.866. So that is kind of representing our profit margin from where price is at now to that demand zone. That's important. So that is something we want to be considering as well. So to me, the momentum is down. It's looking like price is going to continue to go down. It doesn't mean we can't get in long, because it's possible maybe price is going to push up to this daily supply zone first and then push down. So we could definitely capture the up move here before the down move, right? So there are options to get in long and there's options to get in short. I will say I like both of these daily supply zones for potential short trades. So definitely want to have those on your chart with clear profit margin down to that daily area of demand. Now, an important lesson here on the 1-hour chart. If you look, I already have some annotations here. We have a clear area of support. It's reacted. We created it right here, 2, 3, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches off of this support. And if you look, this is support, not demand. I want to make that very, very clear. This is not a demand zone as far as how we look at things here on my channel. So the real demand is actually sitting down below. And I do go over this in more depth and detail in the supply and demand course PDF that comes with the Diamond membership. So if you want access to the PDF you are seeing on the screen right now, join the Diamond membership. There's tons of information in that PDF for you to learn things like this and how to capture trades like this when we have a clear liquidity area here. So there's a bunch of stop losses here right now, and I want to target those and maybe get in long at this 1-hour demand zone. So that is the difference. This is demand, this is support, this is not demand. So hopefully we can break this support area, pull back down to this 1-hour demand and get a move off that demand zone. In the meantime, we have a 1-hour downward trend and a downward trend line. So you actually could be, in the meantime, day trading short a 5-minute chart to target this demand zone. That would be fine. It would make sense. And that trade's probably going to work out, right? Because I think all this liquidity is going to be hit. So that's one option. Day trading short, as long as the downward trend line's holding, to target this demand zone. Then we could switch to a potential long trade at the demand at 0.877. So hopefully this support and resistance versus demand zone is starting to make sense. Like I said, that PDF really breaks it down and we go into much more detail what a supply and demand actually is. Now on the 4-hour chart, the safer option, you can see all those wicks down here, right? It's a little bit of a different time frame. I like this 4-hour demand zone a little bit better. It is a safer zone. Yes, it is bigger, but it's kind of the overall bigger zone, and then the 1-hour zone is kind of inside of it. So this is the safer zone to look for a potential long trade off of. And that is it on the USD Swiss. Let's say we break this demand zone. Any 4-hour supply zone, great. We can get in short off that supply. But in the meantime, those are the demand zones we are working with. And yeah, it's looking pretty good on the USD Swiss. We have a nice 1-hour downward trend line, some good demand zones there. And I'm looking forward to potentially trading some of these zones. Last but not least, we are on to the crude oil chart on the weekly time frame. We do have a weekly downward trend, and we are coming into contact with this weekly demand. I've been pointing out the last couple of weeks, it's just not a great demand zone. It's been tested so many times that I really don't like it anymore, but we cannot deny that price is reacting off of it once again. It is possible we do push up to the upward areas of the trend line and then rally down. So we're going to have to definitely monitor the lower time frames to see what is going on. On the 1-hour chart, We did remove a significant 1 hour trend line. Looked like it was a fake out. We're going to push up again, but we failed to make a new high. And now we actually have a new low. So actually, I didn't notice this, but I'm going to put a downward arrow here. We have a 1 hour downward trend line. And these are things that I monitor for the members as well on my daily chart analysis. So we have a 1 hour downward trend line. You could justify looking for 5-minute time frame shorts to the downside. I guess it's just not the highest side situation, but it could work. There's really not a lot to stop price here until all the way down to this demand zone at 67.31. I'm not saying that price is going to go down. We definitely could maybe react to the up to the upside here, but this is the best demand zone I've seen at 67.31 as far as this 1 hour chart goes. And on the 4 hour time frame here, we have a pretty nice 4 hour trend line still. So honestly, the safest bet would be to ignore that 1 hour analysis I just did, because yes, we do have a 1 hour downward trend line technically, but look at this higher time frame, right? It's really giving us that bigger picture perspective. So looking at this, I would rather be getting in long looking at this chart. So we have a couple options here. The first option, we want to wait for this supply zone to be removed, right? It's a proven supply zone. If you go back to the end of February, we called out this 4 hour supply zone. You can go back and watch the weekly Forex forecast, probably around February 24th to 25th. We called out this 4 hour supply zone trade, beautiful move off that supply, and now it's in control again. So we want to wait for this supply zone to be removed, hopefully creating a new 4 hour demand zone to get in long at as well. That is one option. The next option is to wait for this demand zone down here at 67.72. You might be asking, why not this zone? Well, if you look, we already tested this zone. So it's not a zone I want to be trading at. If you absolutely must trade at this zone, you think, wow, Kevin, you are so dumb. Price is not going to push back all the way down to this demand zone. It's going to react off of this demand zone. That's fine if you think that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I would be doing instead is looking for confirmation on a day trading time frame inside of there, and I would at least wait for this low to be removed first. So if this low gets removed, right, that we already hit the zone at, that gets removed, and we create a nice 5-minute demand zone or whatever, day trading demand zone, whatever you are trading, then okay, you can take the trade, but just know it's lower odds because it's already been tested. So I would rather wait for this supply zone to be removed, hopefully creating new demand zones to look for longs off of, or wait for this demand zone that's still fresh at 67.72 to look for longs off of like that. That is what I would rather be doing. And if you want to be more of an aggressive trader, if you like to take a lot of trades, that's kind of your thing, that's fine. You could be looking for longs at any point as long as this trend line is holding. You know, whether we continue to push up, whether we break the supply zone, doesn't matter. As long as the trend line's holding, yes, you could be looking for the 50-minute time frame longs to trade with the 4-hour trend to the upside. But overall, looking pretty good here on crude oil. We just need to wait for some of the demand zones to be hit or maybe some new demand zones to be created. If you want to watch the full-length forecast and get my daily chart analysis and daily market breakdown videos, join the Diamond membership. Links in the description down below.